Good morning. My name is Reed Brewer and I'm the Director of the Fisheries Technology Program here at the University of Alaska Southeast. And in this short tutorial I'm going to show you how you can stream college content directly into your high school classroom with very little investment by the faculty other than kind of guiding students along. For the purposes of this demo, I want you to imagine I have a classroom full of 10 to 30 students that are sitting here all learning about Alaska fisheries together. So behind me I've got an example lesson. This is salmon and life cycle, which I thought would be appropriate for Alaska, with the idea that I'll walk you through how an instructor could give a class in any high school throughout the state. So this is the home screen, and I've muted the instructor here so you can hear me talk a little bit. And I apologize about the audio for this file. We're having some technical issues here in Sitka, but I wanted to get this out to you as soon as possible, so you have to deal with my very rough demo here. So the instructor would give a short introduction talking about why it's important to learn about salmon and its life cycle. I'm going to hit the next button. Reading assignment. I do want to point out most of the content that you see coming up behind me was originally created for delivery on Apple iPads. And right now we have, I think, 90 students that are taking courses on Apple iPads that we supply. But for the purposes of this demo, I want you to think more about how you could stream this content to multiple students into a classroom. Okay, so in the iPad version we offer these as PDFs in the iBooks application, but this could be a reading assignment, that could be a paper copy, whatever you like. As part of a lot of the segments or classes, we have videos that allow us to kind of engage other media resources so that students aren't just listening to an instructor talk on the screen, they're actually seeing salmon in the field and stuff like that. And then the next screen, and you see these icons up here allow me to move between the home screen here and the reading assignments, the videos, and the main presentations page. So this is the main presentations page. So this is one lesson that has 9 student learning outcomes. And so you can see we've got these buttons here that allow us to kind of skip between segments of the lesson, and each of these lessons has a very specific student learning outcome. So I don't know if you can read this. The first one says external anatomy, be able to label the external features of a salmon. Let's see, for hatchery life cycle number 4, it says describe how the life cycle is different in a hatchery compared to a wild hatchery. So the idea is each of these segments is a very specific student learning outcome, and each of the exams are written directly from these student learning outcomes. So I believe most of our exams have 2 to 3 questions from each student learning outcome, with the idea being we don't want you to learn everything in chapter 1. We want you to learn these 20 things for this particular lesson, and you multiply that by 15 lectures, and you've got, if a student learns 150 to 200 things in a semester, that's pretty darn good. So if we go on, let's say we go on wild salmon life cycle. Most of these lectures will start out with a brief introduction of what we're going to cover in the segment. And here you can see Ashley, who's now who did a great job putting this class together, but is now working on a graduate degree in Juneau. She's talking about why it's important to understand wild salmon life history compared to hatchery. And so we usually start off with a large screen, and then we can shrink her down in the corner, and then she can kind of reference different things in her lecture. She'll have, in a lot of cases, she'll have a pointer where she'll point things out. She's in the bottom left corner now. Now she's up here moving around. It just allows for a little bit more engagement. Okay, and so now she's making a final point, so she makes herself a little bit larger. And so let's go back and check out another option here. So if we go to hatchery life cycle, so again we have Ashley come up, and then see how accurate I am here. But I think I went too far. Yeah. So here's Ashley talking about enhancement reduces survival, and this is a Spawnorama game at the Sitka Sound Science Center. And so she's talking about egg takes and the importance of eggs at an early stage. But what we're able to do now is, instead of having a static screen where you've got PowerPoint type bullets, Ashley's going to talk, And then we'll introduce video, and then Ashley's doing voice over the video explaining what's going on. And what that allows us to do, again, is to take students from the classroom and put them directly into a salmon hatchery or on a boat out at sea. And so here's a short video over at the Medviji Hatchery in Sitka. They're talking about egg takes, and so here they're going to cut up, and you can see the eggs spilling out. So Ashley's she's narrating over the top of this, saying here's what they're doing, and here's why they're doing it. And you can see the different buckets and this and that and the other. Okay. And one of the things we're also able to do is, if I click on internal anatomy, we're actually able to introduce engagement activities where instead of just hearing us lecture, a student can come up and say, okay, I want to learn about kidneys. And here's a description of what the kidney does. And then here's ovary. And here's a little information about that. Heart. And so not only is the student learning where these things are by these little lines, but they're also learning the role in their life history. And if you'll forgive me to kind of scroll through all these, the idea is after a student's kind of gone through all these, we have an engagement activity where you could technically have a student come to the board and say, okay, where's the heart? And so I'm going to drag the heart and I'm going to put it back here where it's clearly not, and it says nope, and then I'm going to drag it over here where the heart is, boom, it sticks. So the idea is we're kind of introducing video, we're introducing instructor presence, we've got micro lessons, a lot of those pedagogical things that make the classroom a little bit more exciting and engaging. So hopefully you could run this in a classroom. So this isn't going to let me do this, but so here I'm back at the main student learning outcomes. Like I said, right now for this particular lesson, there's 9 student learning outcomes with these big blue buttons. In a lot of cases, or actually in all cases now, we've got the time for each of these segments listed, so you can figure out if you have time in a particular day to go through 2 or 3 of these segments. We originally wrote these as a 1.5 to 2.5 hour class. But each of these segments has been broken down so that they're somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes. I think we have 1 or 2 that are 20 minutes. But because you have the time there, you can see if you can fit it in your class. So if your class meets 3 times a week, maybe you cover the first 3 of these student learning outcomes. The first day, 2, and then 3, and then you go through it from there. One of the things I also want to point out is it's really easy to navigate between these lectures. We provide instructors with all the exams, so an instructor could say, okay, I see all the questions that are related to each of these student learning outcomes, and I want to make sure that students understand them in a way that they're going to score well in the test. And so you can preview, as Ashley's talking about external anatomy, you can say, okay, there's 3 questions for this external anatomy. One of them is a diagram of a fish. So an instructor could basically go up and say, okay, did they cover that well enough in the lecture? I want to cover this a little bit more. So it helps to have somebody with a background in natural sciences or any of the sciences, if you will. Here's Ashley walking through an actual external run-through of salmon. But really, you could make these classes work because we're offering all the content and the exams and the reading assignments. And coming this spring 2018, we've got writing assignments. And so that's again things that you could offer as discussion points. I want to keep this short, so I'm going to cut off from here, but please let us know if we can help in any way in helping you get these classes into your classroom so that you can diversify your offerings. Students can start thinking about college coursework while they're in high school and potentially get a jump start on a college career. Thanks so much.